Live.
Yes. Welcome in. It's the Tim McKernan Show. Timothy Michael McKernan, Jackson Bennett Burkett with you here on the podcast. And Jackson, before we even started, people were blaming. How could you see it? We weren't on. Or is this on YouTube?
YouTube, yes.
They weren't happy?
Chat. Yeah, there's the veiled
we
prophet.
tell people 11:20, and it's 11:27, and that's why I said, if it's 11:27, that's fine. Say it.
I said ish. I said 11:20-ish.
How much time does ish buy you?
I'd say 5 minutes. But then I would never be mad at someone for being 2 minutes late. So if you combine that.
The veiled prophet says late, blaming the pale communist from Olivet.
Well, I don't know. I'm not a pale communist, so they can't be talking about me.
I'm not from Olivet.
Yeah. Oh, I guess the end name.
But I am a card-carrying communist.
That's right. You read
How
the
about
Daily
this?
Worker.
Did you see this? I had the text inbox up when I got back into the old TMA studio here. And there's a guy calling me MAGA Tim.
Is that right? Who's that guy?
I don't know. Like, oh my God.
Nice. MAGA Tim. Well, you always keep them guessing. Always keep them on their toes.
Holy shit. Get involved in the program. 24 people sitting here.
Hello, friends.
Waiting for us, Jackson. T. McKernan at InsideSTL.com is where you can always send your emails, questions, comments, erotic stories. We got an erotic story that makes me very happy. Anything is welcome. And then the YouTube chat going on. I'll check the YouTube chat because I see it's active. The woke simp can't even get a podcast started on time. That's from Beer Cats. He won the Milagro Tequila Listener of the Month in January of 2023. Boy, new camera angle for me. Like showing off my taut and rewarding body.
Well, now your back is erect, and now I have to because you were slouching before.
I'm sorry.
So I don't
want to inconvenience you since you're 7 minutes late.
Yeah. No, I got you now.
Okay.
I'm gonna back it up a little bit, give you a little more wiggle room.
Okay. Hey, whatever works. Thanks to James Carlton of the Carlton State Farm Insurance Agency, online at carltoninsurance.net for sponsoring the podcast. Mark Hanna of Evergreen Wealth Strategies, online at evergreenstl.com for sponsoring the podcast. Jamie Burkhardt and Peter Mungenast and Ryan Seiberg, all from Mungenast St. Louis Acura, Mungenast Burkhardt Alton Toyota. Online at stlouisacura.com and altontoyota.com. And then, of course, Seth Goldcamp, Design Air Heating and Cooling, online at designairservice.com. Tim's beard is coming in great. That's from MD 2020.
I don't like talking about it because I don't want to draw attention to it because I'm such a fan.
It grows pretty quickly, I've noticed, because I feel like a month ago I didn't have a beard.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have any pictures of myself.
But you haven't
usually
trimmed.
Just take cock pics.
Right, but do you put your face in it?
I trimmed it this weekend.
Okay. Yeah. But when you take a cock pic, do you put your face in it? 'Cause that's how you prove it's you, you know?
It depends. I have a burner phone. Those are where my cock pics are.
You take the pic, send it, and then smash the phone to a million pieces.
That's exactly
Throw
right.
it down the sewer.
God almighty. I've done plenty of creepy things in my life. I don't think that's alarming anybody. I think I've been the gentleman jacking off in my bedroom on my office chair would be, I would think.
Hand on the small of your back.
Yeah, although I didn't really do anything there. Yeah. And I guess at the same time, I didn't really do anything when the guy was jacking off at the end of my bed either.
Well, you continued.
I continued. What else would you do?
I might address the situation.
But I had a great situation in front of me to revisit this because I know the listeners cycle on. They saw.
Yeah.
It was a foursome, 2 gentlemen, me being one of the gentlemen, and 2 lasses, and I was engaging with the 2 lasses. The other guy had left, and then a few moments later, he reappeared I had hardwood floors, of course, wealthy.
Blessed.
And I had a sliding office chair that probably cost about $18, also blessed. And I heard it making noise at the end of the bed, and I looked behind me, and he was pleasuring himself.
Right. So, yes,
And I don't regret not stopping, for the record, but I could see how it might alarm some people.
Right.
The gentleman who put his hand on the small of my back 2 different occasions, I didn't ask for it. I avoided it. I notified his female significant other. I said, hey, has your compadre here ever announced he's interested in,
Right. The Harrier hole.
The Harrier hole. And she goes, why? And I go, well, every time I walk in front of him, he puts his hand on the small of my back like we're on a prom date.
He was feeling it out. He was beta testing to see if you were into it, and you clearly weren't, but he tried again,
Yeah, like months apart, though. And I remember saying to my girlfriend at the time, I go, God damn it, he put his hand on my back again. This motherfucker.
It is weird.
Yeah.
I think you were going to say is that you've never pictured yourself. You've never taken a photo of yourself.
No.
In that light.
I mean, like, so if you see an AI cockpic of me,
right,
that could be the title of the episode.
AI cockpic of Tim. That's a good one.
There's the awareness of being a 48-year-old man.
Yeah.
But I could be a 28-year-old man. And I have what I believe is the obvious awareness that the woman doesn't want to see that.
No.
Now, you could be a 60-something woman if things are still,
Right.
And I get a picture of you, nakers, eggs and bakers, I'm going to be excited.
Sure.
But a woman just getting a penis sent to her, God almighty. And the thing is, and this isn't coming from like the perspective of a, at least publicly heterosexual male.
Right.
This is from women talking about it. Like, no, we are not visually aroused. We are different. Their love language are like niceties. Mm-hmm. Or just a real nice jackhammering, something in between.
Right, anywhere in between, really. I have also never posed myself.
Audio might be, but visually, yes. I apologize. I cut you off.
I cut you off. I've also never photographed myself. There's no world in which I think that goes well for me.
But I guess it goes on.
Oh, yeah.
And hey, God bless. I'm not going to kink shame.
Sure.
I'm happy to hear it.
Yeah. Well, we know the ratings thing. People get off on having their dick
they get off on being told that they have a small one.
Yeah. Yep. Which, hey, we're not going to kink shame you.
Oh, look at this. I just got a text from my wife, and I'm like, oh, fuck, is she listening to this? Like, there's no way. This is like my safe space.
Right.
And it was a picture of Terrence Trent Darby.
Right. We played.
And she wrote "so romantic" with a little heart emoji.
Oh, nice.
Because as we were driving, we went to dinner at Olive and Oak on Saturday night. Here's what I was going to do. Mm-hmm. This is you know what, this is still my show. I can just talk about whatever.
It's true.
And I like it. I'm going to, I was thinking, we're going to Sebastian Maniscalco. Right. Are you a fan of his? Are you aware of his? I'm picking up maybe a read on him that I might not have been aware of going to the show.
I'm not personally the biggest fan.
And why is that?
I think he gets a lot of mileage out of the voice, the kind of voice he does. And I just kind of find that to be not cheap. It's just not for me. Like, I just think he gets a lot, like, it's funny because he says it a certain way.
Is he considered like a conservatives comic?
Is that, I don't know. I have no idea on.
All I know is, whereas earlier this year, I took my wife and my son, and I would like to apologize, by the way, to a Zach Bryan show.
Oh, yeah, you're fucked.
And we'll talk about that in a moment. And we were, me and my wife were on the older end of the demographic.
I understand, yeah, for sure.
On Saturday night at Enterprise Center for the Sebastian Maniscalco concert, we were, I wouldn't say on the super young, but we were probably on the younger end of the demographic.
Sure.
And then I know Doug loves him and gets going anytime we talk about him. Mm-hmm. And then I'm like, okay, is there a little, and so I'm like, okay, is there like, am I like going into a territory? Did I say this on the air? Or was this off the air before that I said, I was looking at the text inbox? Was that off the air? I was off. Thank you. Because you're my barometer. I don't remember what's on the air and off the air. It doesn't really matter. I just don't want to be repetitive. Jackson was fucking around, causing everybody waiting for this podcast to be late.
Yep.
And so I had the text inbox open, and somebody called me MAGA Tim. And it's just an amazing thing.
Oh, you did say that on the air.
It was on the air?
Did you?
Fuck me, whatever. We said it twice.
Yeah, whatever.
Either way, I'm like, oh, is this... I still find him entertaining. I don't... Conservative, liberal, doesn't fucking matter to me.
Yeah.
But so I happened to see him, Graham Bensinger, did an interview with him. I think it just aired last week. And I was watching, like, they just posted the whole raw thing. I'm surprised they did that.
Yeah, this is surprising.
So the interview, the show probably is only 22 minutes of what they choose with the shears. But the whole conversation between Graham and Sebastian Maniscalco is an hour and 45 minutes. And, like, it's them just having a conversation, and you can see, like, the producers setting lights and all that. That's kind of, I mean, I'm not, I guess maybe you can check with him.
Right. Yeah,
but I mean, if I'm
100%.
interviewing, sometimes we're talking about God only knows what,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't just like throw that up. But either way, it's so clear that number one, it's a great interview. I'm a quarter of the way through it. It's really well done. I tip my cap to Graham in such a major way for what he has built. He's a St. Louis guy. I love that kind of show. Honestly, I rarely look around in the industry dead serious. I don't know why, but I just don't. If any, like KK Adams, happy for her. Doug was pointing her out in a commercial break today. She was up on the monitor. She's talented. You know, my wife happened to work with her. Willie's in Columbia, so you know we know her from being on the show, and my wife knows her going back to when they were in school together. And I'm like, hey, Kay Adams is doing really well for herself. Fuck. You know, like, which I think goes on in our industry. I think goes on with audience members in our industry. You know, like that person shouldn't be having that success. But in Graham's case, I'm like, I'm jealous because I'm like, I could have done exactly that. I love that format. I would do that for my career and be in heaven. And he's doing it, and he's killing it. I don't know if he's killing it. I'm assuming he's making a lot of money. Fuck, I don't know. But either way, I just love doing those kinds of conversations. And then, like, Sebastian Maniscalco, in a totally different voice, is saying to Graham, so, like, who's the favorite? You know, and it's like a totally different thing. So who's your favorite interview you've done? And then Graham goes, well, you're not going to interview me. I'm like, oh, look at Graham. The same guy who used to call me and Doug for advice, like sounding like he was 3 years old, is now telling Sebastian Maniscalco not to ask him questions. And it's totally not for the show. They're just like setting up the lighting and the mics. Right. But to your point, when you can tell when he's going into material because he goes into like the Brooklyn guy, even though he's from Chicago.
Right.
And that's his on-stage voice.
Which is fine. Like, that's like, but that's what I think I don't like, is I think, like, if you were to say some of his stuff but I'm going to kind of amend my own take, because I never liked that.
Guy who amends own take moments later. New guy from Martin.
But it's like the person who'd be like, well, Seinfeld isn't that funny if you took away the laugh track. I'm like, but they set up the jokes. They're paced in a certain way so that they leave room for the laugh track. It would still be funny. They would just do it differently. But I do think that there is a little something to, like, if you were to say this in his normal voice, it wouldn't be as funny as then when he does the elongated Brooklyn-esque accent.
And he talked about in the portion of the interview I've seen, and I'll go back and I'll watch it probably later on this evening, he talks about his discovery of the value of physical comedy, which certainly is a big part of his act. But I'm like, and I've been lucky enough to see, I saw Chappelle and Chris Rock last year. I think it was early in the year they were in
early
St. Louis.
23, yeah.
Saw Carlin at Missouri when I was a student, 1997. I think it was the night Edgar Renteria won the World Series for I Apologize, the Indians in 97. And I feel like, who else are some that would be considered greats? I mean, those Chappelle, Carlin, Rock.
Didn't you say one time you were with, I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the name, Artie Lang.
I was with Artie.
And you went to a comedy show in
Seinfeld? So I did see Seinfeld. So I did see Seinfeld.
Yeah, he was like,
but it was at Gotham, which is where Sebastian, as it turns out, Maniscalco and Seinfeld have become friends.
Got it.
And that night, I was with Artie, which was insane in and of itself, that whole night happening. And then he was BSing, and all were there just like hanging out where we were, which was just weird to me that happened, because I don't view myself like to be at this. You shouldn't be in those spots, but I was lucky enough to be in that spot. Dave Attell, Susie Essman from Curb Your Enthusiasm, Gilbert Gottfried. Yeah. And then Seinfeld just did a drop-in thing, which is what he does at Gotham every once in a while, which is what Sebastian was saying in the interview. Anyway, why do I bring this up? And I'm actually going to get back on track. Right. I was going to go to Canetto's.
Oh, nice. Very nice.
So it's like 5:15. The tickets for the concert say 7 o'clock. I'm like, I know there's going to be some openers. I'm not interested in that song and dance. My guess is he goes on around 8 to 8:30. Yeah. So we got time for dinner. My in-laws are taking care of our sons. So now we're going to dinner at like 5:15, like we're, 80. And I go, and she goes, I bet we could get into Canetto's at this time. I go, I'm just telling you, we're going to have a long, in my opinion, now you used to live right by there. Uh-huh. In my opinion, we would have had an hour wait. We would have gotten there at 5:30, 5:45. Saturday night during the holidays.
Yeah.
And now we're in a spot.
Yeah.
So she's like, I bet we could get a seat at the end of the bar at Olive and Oak.
Yeah.
And I can't go wrong with that. Charred octopus and burger, baby.
It's a pretty solid 1-2 punch. Yeah. That time at Canetto's, yeah. If you were like 6:45, I bet you could have got a table.
Quicker.
Yeah.
Right. Isn't that fucked up? Isn't that a commentary?
Yeah.
Isn't that a commentary?
Yeah, it is. Like, you look at like reservation websites, and granted, if you're on a reservation website, it's usually a restaurant that's a little younger, but even so, it's like you can pretty much sit wherever at 7:30, but at 6, it's tough. And it's like, oh, well, shit. It gets dark out a little earlier, and people are like, I need to eat by 6 or else I'm screwed.
But the thing, so we go to the show. Maniscalco's done at 9:05. I looked at my phone, so he did an hour and 10 minutes. I mean, we walked in, they're literally announcing him on the stage.
Pretty awesome.
And he does an hour and, 10, 20 minutes. And again, I recognize that Carlin, Rock, Chappelle are much different than what Sebastian Maniscalco is doing. He's doing everyday observations.
Yeah.
And there is more physical, certainly, but I still have an appreciation. It's like you love music, but you like rap and you like country, and you don't go, well, rap sucks. I like country. You go, oh, it's two different things, but I can appreciate the brilliance that he is able to execute it.
For sure.
And then seeing how kind of introspective he is, which is a credit to Graham in the interview, really, and like how he's, a normal guy, for lack of a better term, because I don't usually think that's necessarily the case with comedians more often than not.
Yeah.
Away from the stage, I have a greater appreciation for it. And I mean, I don't think he really got going until, his 40s,
Yeah. And there's certainly...
He's 3 or 4 years older than me. And, I mean, he didn't really get going, I think, until the teens.
Yeah, Dangerfield was kind of like that in that same way. Dangerfield didn't start till super, super late. Steve Martin also, I think, started pretty late in his life. Yeah, there's certainly examples of that. I have liked a lot of Maniscalco's stuff before. I thought he was really good as Joe Gallo in The Irishman. I remember that was like one of the first introductions I had to him. But I just have never found his comedy something where I'm like, I have to go see him, But I'd say that's more...
You look down on me for enjoying him.
No, not
like
at
I
all.
look down on you for being into Phoenix Marie.
That's right. No, I don't look down. Comedy, much like music to me, is like, it's so subjective that it's even hard to verbalize why you might like someone over somebody else, or like why you like some music over something else. It's just so like almost primal into why you think something's funny and why it's not.
Yeah.
So I think Maniscalco, if people like it, God bless. Not personally my favorite, but I think he's really funny.
So we went to Olive and Oak on Saturday night. They did have the NBA on.
Nice. Good for them.
They did.
NBA Cup. Come on, Rockets.
I
Thunder.
think my wife goes, I bet Jackson would be happy about this. And then the next thing I know, professional wrestling is on. But I think it's because they had TNT.
TNT was doing the
pregame.
game, and then the game was on ABC. We had the same issue when I was at Max Local Eats.
And we're heading downtown, and Wishing Well by Terrence Trent D'Arby comes on, and my wife was talking about something. When she starts listing the holiday plans.
That's when you check out.
I'm like, I'm going to have time off. I'm going to be able to sleep. I'll get to spend time with my wife and our boys. And that's what I'm mostly interested in.
Right.
And then when I start hearing about now...
This, that, and the other.
And now and she knows it,
Yeah.
And then Wishing Well starts up, and she's probably in the midst of talking about this holiday scheduling thing, which has put me in a bad place. So I have now checked out, and I've gone, to the oil scene with Chasey Lane and Jill Kelly and Kylie Ireland. And I said, Terrence Trent D'Arby was supposed to be the next Michael Jackson, which I'm sure I've said 1,000 times in her presence. And she goes, okay, why don't you have Jackson use this as return music? And that way I'll know you're listening to me.
Nice.
And so today I said, Jackson, Terrence Trent D'Arby, Wishing Well. And so I guess she was podcasting, and boom, there you go.
Equity bought, yeah. She should employ the same system I have on 101 for telling you the live reads with holiday plans, and just flash the whiteboard in front of your face moments before you do it, and then you just go do it. I'm
telling you. It's quite a thing. It's quite a thing, Jackson. Let's see what we got here. All right. Let me take a look at the YouTube chat here. I'm waiting on someone to come in and sign some papers, and they told me they would be in at 11ish, and here we are. So this is MD 2020. We see pro baseball, broadly speaking, become less interesting to the masses over recent years. What is one sport, and at what level do you think is next to surge or fall in public interest? It's from Ben D.
surge in public, and that's the tougher question. I think there's plenty that could fall victim to what baseball is going through. I think the NBA actually is currently going through what the baseball has kind of gone through.
Yeah, what do you think about that, NBA ratings?
I think a lot of it is sourcing of the ratings. I think because it's a younger thing, there's a lot of streaming numbers and there's a lot of illegal streaming numbers that don't get reported accurately. I think
So you're saying people are watching it, they're watching it illegally?
I think it's still having an issue with ratings, but I don't think it's as egregious as some of the numbers will tell you, because I know a lot of people who love watching the NBA who only watch it on illegal streams. And it's like they get no credit for that, So that's tough. I also just think people are like, yeah, I'll see the highlights on Instagram and TikTok, and I'll watch when the playoffs start.
I don't know what's on the verge of surging.
That's the tougher question to me.
I think college football is going to get more and more popular.
But I think it's already.
But it's already there.
Right.
I think what goes on now is just ridiculous. At the same time, the other side of the portal for me is what it used to be. Now, being a Missouri fan is a hell of a lot different than being a fan of a program that, really competes and is in the mix for a national championship, but there are way more Missouris than there are Alabamas. Is I'm like, okay, Cook's gone. Not that he was the second coming, but with the portal, you solve that and you don't have to have like a rebuild year.
Yeah, you can.
Because when I'm sitting there booking up all these hotels for South Carolina, Alabama, what else do I have? A&M and Kansas. Mm-hmm. I'm like, they might suck. I might not want these.
Right.
But then you go to the portal and it's like it's free agency all over again.
Right.
So it's a great thing.
Yeah.
So in that sense, I like it. But then if you don't get one, I don't know if they will or not. I would operate on the premise that they will.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't know what else would fall off. I really think part of baseball's issue is something baseball can't do anything about, and that is, and it goes. I don't think this is like too highbrow by any means. It's pretty basic. It's pacing.
Yeah.
And younger people are now used to more of an instant gratification with social media and phones and smartphones, and therefore that pacing does not work for younger people's brains. It just doesn't, and therefore I don't really know if it's solvable.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think both baseball, hockey to an extent, National Basketball Association, where you have massive amounts of regular season games, are no longer. It's not even a question of like, are they more interesting than pick a streaming service's best show? Is it more interesting than spending 28 minutes on your phone scrolling TikTok?
Yeah.
And in a lot of cases, it might not be.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there is something you can do about that.
But then why does college football in the NFL? Are you saying because the regular season,
the rarity?
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'll listen to that thesis.
Yeah, rarity, just once a week, and each game is so crucial. And I just think like it's kind of set up perfectly where it's like, all right, you watch this drive, and then we're going to go to commercial break, and then you dick around on your phone or do whatever, and then we're back. Whereas all the other sports are kind of like always going, and the breaks are, you can't really pick up when the break's coming. Basketball's a little different because they have the 4-minute thing. But it's tough. It's tough. And I just don't think regular season games when there's 82 or 162 are more interesting than anything else you can do.
Yeah. I don't know how you solve it.
Yeah, I think regular season baseball is like, well, what else was on? Like what else was there to do? Read, talk to the people around you. Yuck. Like now there's 1,000 million different things to do.
Let's see. Hey Tim and/or Jackson, I will pay you $36.32 for that ultra sign in the studio.
It's worth more than that.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to take a higher bid for that one. I sent a D pic to the wrong girl once on Snapchat. It was supposed to be to Alyssa, and it went to Alicia, unfortunately.
Oh, no.
Alicia was a bartender at Hot Shots, and I had some explaining to do. That's from Don PP.
That actually brings up something I've always wanted to talk about. They've talked about this on Chris Long's podcast, not about sending cock pics. But what a drinking game they would play in college was called phone chat roulette, where if like you lost the game of beer pong, you would have to take your phone and start scrolling through your contacts, and whenever the person said stop, you'd have to call that person like in the middle. It would be like Saturday night at 9 or 10 p.m. and you have to call that person, otherwise you have to like chug another drink, and you can only get like one skip. And I've always thought, like, what would be the worst contact in your phone to scroll in and click on and have to call that person?
Well, I got some weird ones in
I
here,
know,
as you
that's
might
the
imagine.
thing. Like working in media, like you have like if I had to like scroll on Buster Olney and I have to call Buster Olney at 10 p.m. on a Saturday.
It's a pretty good game.
It's pretty goofy.
Let's see. We got a really active YouTube chat here. I think this is the real Jake Reynolds.
Yeah, that's him.
Okay. Hi, Tim. Hi, Jackson. Thanks for putting these QFTAs on YouTube. Sure do enjoy them. How about that? What is you know what he is? He's a special spirit.
He is a nice guy.
You call him TMA Kiss Ass #1, but he's not. He's a special spirit is what he is.
I've met him IRL, and he's just as sweet and kind in real life as he is on
that?
YouTube chat.
He is a delight. Let's see. I'm trying to get everything that I can. Tim, if I'm not, Esteban Yan. If I'm not mistaken, you and TJ Moe used to be friends or at least business colleagues. He has since started running the Clay Travis playbook on X. How has your relationship with him evolved since then? Here's I can be as straightforward as I possibly can be. Doug Vaughn and I believe, I don't know, have totally different worldviews. I think. I don't know. I have no idea because we just don't really talk about it because I don't really care and you didn't care about mine. And I'm not even, I'm not really... So what somebody does with their social media thing, I don't know. I understand TJ only because I follow Paige Sporanic.
Oh, yeah. Great follow.
Yes.
I saw something.
She was like posting a video of TJ saying something about people don't want to hear women talk football or something like that. I'm just like, okay, whatever. Great. I don't know. I just, it's not, I don't, and I don't think people take offense to it. It's like Martin, for example. And I didn't mean it disrespectfully at all, but I just know that, in this era of local television news, it used to be you had the 5, 6, and 10.
Yeah.
And now, because the industry isn't exactly healthy, they're just like putting newscasts everywhere. I have no fucking idea where they are. I don't watch any of them, but it's not like I don't like that Mandy Murphy. I won't be watching. I just don't. So, we were bullshitting about something. I said, God, when do you got to anchor? Because we were talking like at 9:30. And I'm like, don't you like do sports in 15 minutes or something? And he goes, oh, I know. Nobody watches local news. I wasn't saying that, although, but I was just like, don't you need to go do the pro? I mean, even for as little as that stuff is,
right?
Because you really could, after a while, you could knock it out probably in about 5 minutes. Ask Rich Gould. And yeah, he's got like a 5, a 6. There might be something in there, and then a 9 and a 10. Holy shit.
That's a lot.
Point being, my relationship with TJ Moe, to give it a history, I didn't know TJ. I knew when I was doing the show with Jim Edmonds on 920, which was a great show, and it had nothing to do with me or Jim Edmonds. It had to do with John Seymour as the producer, who utilized Jim Edmonds' name to get us ridiculous guests who would come on expecting to talk to Jim, and once Jim said hi and then started looking at his iPad, I would then interview the guest and couldn't be more excited.
And what was Jim Edmonds looking at?
Oftentimes pictures of tornadoes.
That's always the funniest part to me.
It's true as can be. And I knew that it was great. The show was really good during baseball season, but I knew that football was coming up. This was 2014, so Missouri had some expectations. They had just had a great year in 13.
Yep.
The Rams were still in St. Louis. It's hard to think that's the landscape.
Sean Hill years.
Oh, and I knew that TJ had just been cut by the Rams,
right.
And so he's a local guy. He had success at Missouri. And so I reached out to him not knowing him at all, and I didn't even know if he was doing anything media. I think he was an entertaining soundbite at SEC Media Days.
For sure.
So I'm like, okay, this guy's got some personality.
Yeah.
TJ doesn't have anything to do. We bring him on the show. We go down together. Well, I think he drove, actually, but I flew down to Atlanta for the 2014 SEC Championship game against Alabama. Not much of a game. We stood in the Alabama section, like super close to the field. We were lucky enough to get those. I think TJ had the tickets. We were driving around. I love this story. Maybe I will appreciate this more than you do, but this happened, and it was so... So we go to a Mizzou pre-SEC Championship bowl game party, and I've told the story. Not bowl game, I wouldn't have been at that SEC championship game party, and he's friends with Michael Sam. They played with each other,
Right.
And so Michael Sam, obviously at that time, I mean, he's a huge name, well beyond Missouri fans. And so, as you might imagine, there's a lot of guys, and they're drinking. They're out of town. Missouri's playing the SEC Championship. I don't think there were a lot of nerves about the game because there weren't real high expectations with that team. It's like when Missouri played Oklahoma in 2008. Missouri fans kind of knew it wasn't going to go well, and I think Oklahoma, put up like 60-plus points at Arrowhead on them. So people are just drinking and hanging out, And I think there are gentlemen who are such big Missouri fans that went into that bar straight as an arrow. And by the time like TJ and I are getting ready to leave, like at 12:30, I think Michael Sam was going to ride with us. There are guys on the. I go, where's Michael? You know, I barely know him.
Right.
And there are guys on the dance floor dancing with Michael Sam. And I'm not talking about like a wedding dance. I'm talking about like Sam's grinding on him. And I go, God almighty, you got to really love the Tigers to.
Atlanta, Georgia, baby.
God almighty.
Does something to you.
What in the hell? I mean, how many posts on Tiger Board do you go, fuck it, you know? If I got a chance to be with the SEC Defensive Player of the Year.
It might be a 9-1 segment for tomorrow. How many posts on Tiger Board before you start dancing with a gentleman?
And I remember going, God, I go, you know what? This is great to see.
Yeah, it is.
This is great to see.
This is, yeah.
Look how wonderful
Football
this is.
brings us all together.
Amen.
Yeah, it brings us all together.
So anyway, Edmonds got to a point because that show, that show, the Edmonds and McKernan show, saved TMA. Saved TMA because if he wouldn't have agreed to do that show, we wouldn't have had the advertising revenue from that show. And then that means that advertising revenue, which kept 920 going and then wound up leading to 920 being profitable, I don't know what the hell we would have done. I might not have had a home, actually, since I signed my home over to the station owner, Bert Kaufman. And so I, was very grateful for it. But after a while, it became clear that people were having us do the show so they could get autographs from Jim. And he's like, and I don't know what the number was, but the point was he would make a hell of a lot more if he were doing an autograph signing somewhere. And he's like, I just don't want to do this anymore. And so the fact that we got like more than, I don't know how long we did it, but we did it for a while.
It was like 8 months, maybe?
More than that.
Yeah.
It started in the 2013 playoffs, and that's where he said the famous line to me on the air. Well, since we're not in the clubhouse and we really don't know the reasoning behind the decision, anything that we say on the air is pure speculation. And I go, brother, you just blew up the whole sports talk radio industry right there.
I remember listening, though, to
with the guests that Seymour would book. Yeah. It was just insane.
I was a 16-year-old listening to a lot of local AM
radio,
yeah.
low-powered AM radio. So Jim goes, I'm done doing it. And he was kind of like, I think the Real Housewives thing had started up, and he's catching hell from that. Yeah. So then we ceased doing the show. And I also was dead. I mean, I'm, quote, running the station. In that case, I actually really was running the station. I just didn't own the station.
In 6 hours total of radio?
I guess. I don't know, 7 to 10 and whatever that show was. 3 to 6. And they were remotes.
Right. So you're driving out to places. Yeah. Usually out further away from your home. Yeah. That's brutal.
But we didn't have kids, and we did what we needed to do. It was I'll tell you that, it was the happiest I've ever been in my career, actually, weirdly enough.
Yeah.
I don't know what that says. But I mean, I kind of had, and that was like the one time in my career where I really did have control. Mm-hmm. And we were making money, and I had control. So my wife and I, with no kids, we just go, okay, we're going to go 2 weeks, producer Joe or Charlie or Jay Jr. come in, run point. Nobody fucking cares.
Yeah.
I own things, so.
Yeah.
If
I'm saying yes, all's good.
Enjoy it.
Yeah.
Have at it. So that was a great time. But anyway, then TJ. So this goes into KFNS. So we put We Are Live on in afternoons on KFNS, and we switched over to KFNS. And I mean, I don't think we were a month in before I got a phone call from the owner of the station. Now, I'm by definition president of the station, but I want to emphasize by definition. Mm-hmm. And the owner of the station says, we gotta get rid of this afternoon show. And I said, well, it's been on a month. Usually
give it a little time.
There's a wider berth. And he goes, it needs to be sports. They don't talk sports. It needs to be sports. And I'm like, but you knew that. Whatever. It's fine. And there's some more in there that I, just for the purpose of, I have to keep behind closed doors. And he said, give me an alternative, any alternative. Otherwise, I'm going to have to do this. And so presented that, I said, I talked to Seymour that night, actually. And he goes, oh, God. And I go, yeah, that's what we're up against. And he goes, well, what about like Cam Jansen and TJ Moe And I go, okay, I'll try that. And I can't remember who else. Eric Messersmith, talented guy, used to be on 101. And we had brought Hannah Yates, who's now does Braves and Hurricanes sidelines, in, and Matt Whitener. And I said, what about this show? And he goes, sounds good, as long as they talk sports. So, but then a handful of months later, and that was one of the reasons, not because of that show, because clearly I wasn't told, it was in my contract, that I would be in charge. It wasn't going to work out that way. My wife was pregnant with our first child, didn't even think we were going to be able to have a child. And we thought we lost the baby on a Saturday morning. And if that would have happened, and fortunately it didn't, that baby became our 7-year-old son now, I don't know how I would have handled that mentally going forward, because I believed that I was stressing. I was under so much stress from the situation, and my wife was under stress because I was under so much stress, because there was a lot there while that was going on. I said, I'm not running this thing anyway. I'm just giving it back. Have it. And I was given 25% ownership of the radio station. It had zero value. So take it back. It doesn't matter. It could be, if you're given something and it has zero value, it might sound good publicly, but it means nothing. So have it back. I don't want to be president. I don't care. I'll keep doing TMA, but I can't, because I'm not running it anyway.
Right.
And so TJ, I believe, continued at the station. And I think that show continued. Honestly, I really don't remember. I'm not being flippant. I just don't really remember what the afternoon show was on KFNS up until Frank Opinion came in a couple years later. That one I do remember. And it might have been a revolving door of sorts. I don't know. I knew it was us and Frank Cusimano. And then I think Martin and Charlie did a show for a period of time. There might have been a 1-hour show in there, here and there.
Yeah.
Eventually, John Hadley was doing a show with TJ Moe, and I don't know who else. And I'm not saying this to be like, I'm bigger. I just don't, I honestly don't remember. Yeah. And honestly, part of it is I might have subconsciously be blocking it out. Dead serious.
And the lineup changed a lot.
In the afternoons, it did.
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, from 7 to noon, you had us and Frank Cusimano. That was pretty standard. So anyway, because of whatever people might think that somebody tweets out or says on a show, and I don't know if TJ's doing a show, I don't know. I don't go, well, I disagree with him. I just don't. My honest answer is, from somebody I haven't seen in years or talked to in years, I just don't care. I mean, I'm not trying to say it like I'm above it or I'm beneath it or I care, but I'm acting like I don't. I just don't care. But a lot of that is I don't pay attention to it. Mm-hmm. It doesn't affect my life in any way.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you were going after in the 10 o'clock hour today on TMA. People who live on Twitter, is that what?
Yeah.
People who live on Twitter. And I just don't, but I'm not saying, I'm not mocking those who do. I don't know what the percentage is of listeners who do live on social media. I think if you are in a social media, if you're active on it, I think you think it might be a bigger percentage of what the world is than what it is.
Yeah.
And then in the same way, I think it's not good for doing what we do to completely withdraw from it. Uh-huh. And that's something that I go back and forth with, Mm-hmm. But anyway, do with it what you want. So there's my thoughts.
I think removing yourself completely and being I would say I'm generally aware of everything that's going on that would be in our purview, but trying to separate okay, this conversation is going on here, but this is actually going on in other places, or does it really even matter? And I think that balancing that and figuring that out is a key element to it, because oftentimes, and I don't blame anyone for doing it, you get caught up in narratives that might be being pushed one place.
Yeah, and then I'm oblivious to, which is why I ask people, but people just don't do it. But here's the thing. If you got a problem with something or you got a question, you can email me, and then nobody does. I've used the example of Micah Sage, and I use his name only because he called in to do, or I asked him to call in after he sent a long email. And he sent an email about the clock on TMA, which still is the same clock, and we've been told different dates, and I believe it will happen January 9th. But at this point, I don't want to say anything because I don't want to be like I'm saying it and I'm not doing it. If people really think that I'm responsible for clocks, but I know that some people probably do think that. I just know because I've been around long enough to know that people think I'm responsible for things. Like Biff comes up to me at the Hot Shots for the Christmas party. He goes, "Hey Tim, I know you're in the," because I was talking to two people, and he goes, "I just got to ask, is there any way Iggy can get back on the show?" And I go, "Biff, I'd love it. I know you weren't aware of what I was doing from April through October, but I was trying to keep Iggy on the show. But I can't be mad at anybody, Biff or anybody else, for not knowing that which I know. And I remember Martin telling a story about Mazalok, and he's like, well, thank you for giving me and I think Bill DeWitt III did this too. Thank you for giving me the platform to talk about it. And it's like, here I know I could text John Mazalok and talk to him about shit. Not because I'm a big star, but I mean, we know each other for 25 plus years. But I don't. And I sit there and I go, well, how can I be irritated when people come up with things about me or the show, and and then I come up with things about the Cardinals or John Mazalok or the way they're doing business, and then I don't ask them. That would be hypocritical on my part. You see what I'm saying? Do you follow
totally. I'm with you.
Yeah. So I get that. So then I sit there and I go, yeah, why don't I reach out to Mazalok if I have questions about it? I've already, in my mind, I'm like, they have a television revenue situation. They're concerned about it. That's why they're not signing players. And they're in a financial spot that they never anticipated being in because they thought they had a 10-year, 10-figure deal or something like that. Right. And now they don't have it. But I don't know that. I happened to be right with what was going on. Now they talk about the television situation and the short-term pitching contracts from last year. But that was just like a guess when I could have absolutely gotten the answer. Mm-hmm. Now, if you reach out to somebody and you ask a question and then the person doesn't answer, well, that's a different thing.
That's different.
But I like to think that people who email me with questions, and they're very few, that they'd say, okay, he answers. Or I'll say, I appreciate the question. It's a great question. It's not my call. I don't have the answer, or I can't answer it because it's a public situation.
But at least you're having a conversation.
Yes, you're at least doing it. Right. So along those lines, Brad Mudd writes, happy holidays. What are the chances the car, I believe that meant the cat though, since it was capitalized, fills in for Doug during his 6 months of vacation? Everyone on good terms. I'll hang up and listen. I had lunch with the cat about a month ago, and I said, hey, Doug's going to be out next week. How about coming in? Whether come in for an hour or come in and do the whole show. And I don't think I don't know. This would be a case right now. I feel like I might be. The cat's interested in being involved with the show, but he doesn't want to just be like popping up as a fill-in guy. And he gave me more reasons, but I don't necessarily feel like it's my place to give the reasons. So, it's not all that exciting. It's just like, if like somebody did a podcast and I'm like talking about things that were private at a lunch, and then they start talking about the shit that I said, and I go, yeah, that wasn't for
consumption.
I go, what the fuck you doing?
Right.
Right.
Regardless of how big or small it might.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's just a kind of a principle thing.
Yeah,
but I asked him if he wanted to do it, since it would be me, Martin, and the cat, just like the very beginning of the morning grind. And he's like, yeah, I don't really, and he gave me his reason, and he goes, this might just be me. He goes, but I don't. And I go, hey, I totally get it. And I legitimately do get where he's coming from. I'm not just saying I get it. But there's a chance for some involvement with the cat in 2025. I would say that, but I don't know if it would necessarily be like in a fill-in role. We are going to have some fill-in opportunities here over the holidays.
Right.
So if you've got fill-in requests,
send them in.
Chuckles Marlowe, I thought he was great when he was in for the hour.
Yep.
I think Wellington will be back in town.
Ooh, I love anytime Wellington.
I never know what the gluten-free perk situation is. I feel like Chairman Kurt reaches out.
Well, yeah, but anytime she wants to drop by.
She was very busy on Twitter yesterday. I don't know what was going on.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, she likes to wager.
She was having a big day on the Twitter tweets. All right. Damn Iggy's Facebook post, people are a-holes. That's from Greg Roth. I don't know what that means.
I guess I'll go to Facebook.
I was texting with Iggy on Thursday, and I'm trying to think what the update from Iggy was. I was updating him on the Sound Story thing that I think is going to be, I think Chairman Kurt and Iggy might be working together on a regular basis.
Hell yeah.
On the Sound Story side of the world. But what's going on at Iggy's, and if this is not something for public concern, this is the risk of doing the YouTube, because I'm...
Yeah, I mean, he's playing on Facebook, but I don't want to, talk about it.
Oh, really?
Well, it's not really my place.
Does it have to do with, like, the business?
No, it has to do with his personal affairs, I guess.
Oh, shit.
Well, I don't think it's like...
Okay, fair
it's
enough.
not like the most serious thing.
Then the next one is what happened with Iggy, the neighbors that complain about the smoke. That's from Erin in St. Chuck, and she has pierced nipples.
She does have pierced nipples, so you have to take everything she says very seriously.
Let's see. Jake Reynolds says, I can back up Tim. I emailed him about a concern I had, and right away he called me, and we had a good chit-chat for over an hour. I love doing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you do. Anytime you like to talk it over with folks.
I do, but I also want to hear. Well, I mean, there's not really air to clear so much. Like that's if you're like fighting with somebody. I view that term meaning that.
Right.
But I like to, like, here's the situation. Now you might not like it after you hear it, but this is the situation, and I think that's a health. But then I look in the mirror and I go, I'm sitting here talking about the Cardinals, for example. I mean, that's the one that I'll keep using, and I know. I mean, I texted Bill DeWitt III right after was he in studio or he's on the phone with us for like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, thanks for your time. I think that was a really good conversation. And he said, thank you for giving me the platform. And I'm like, yeah, this is a guy who I text with, not as a brag. Do people take that as a brag? I would hope not.
Some people probably would.
What a fucking weird thing. Like, that's my job. Yeah, if I had a question, I did. There was something going on with the TV deal, and I texted him earlier in the year about it. But it's like, I know I can get the answers.
Yeah.
Like Martin, I'll tell you this. Like most of the interviews that we've gotten so far on TMA on 101 are because of Martin and his contacts, and then they lead to these great conversations. And it's like, that's something that I love doing. I was talking about the Graham Bensinger thing and how much I love those kinds of conversations. When you can tell somebody's in it, it takes both parties. Certainly the interviewer is going to be into it. At least you would assume. It'd be weird if he wasn't or she wasn't. But you don't know where the guest's going to be. And if the guest is in,
it's awesome.
Oh, it's the best. And it doesn't matter who it is.
Right.
It doesn't matter who it is. That is engaging, lean into radio, podcasting,
right,
whatever it might be. And I love that. And I had that. But then once I stopped doing TV, I'm just like, I'm not going to go down to these guys. My job, even though it's not what the public thinks it is, my job is to bring in revenue. Now, that's what all of our jobs really are, but we're not really told that directly. And so it's like, oh, I went down to the ballpark all the time. I went down to the rink all the time. Well, how was the show doing revenue-wise? Well, I don't know. I'd never had a live read. Well, that's a problem.
Right.
I can assure you, where it matters, that's a problem. You can be at the rink every single day. If you don't have live reads, you got a problem. I'm just telling you how it works. You can be at the rink all day long. But just because you're doing one doesn't mean you can't do the other, you know? So I'm like, maybe I go down there and just start bullshitting with people again. Because I do enjoy doing that, and I love having those kinds of conversations. So that's a big credit to Martin. Old Tuftsy says, Chuckles, Wellington, and Free Perk. Yeah. So next Monday and Tuesday, Doug's off. Next Thursday and Friday, me and you are off.
Correct.
And then the following week, Martin's off.
Yes.
There's your captain's log.
Yeah, that's the holiday schedule. The live programming 4 of the 5 days next week.
Let's see. Love Me Some Chuckles. That's from Chels Oz.
Yeah, I was looking at that. I thought it said Chef Anus for a second, but no.
People are still being an asshole to Iggy. Dude is missed for sure. People are being an asshole, like on his Facebook? Is that what this is about?
I guess.
So people are just like posting shit on Iggy's Facebook?
I'd be surprised if that was happening.
He got an eviction notice on his car and has to be out in 10 days on his car? He's living in his car?
No, he goes on to amend apartment.
Oh, his apartment. Oh, my God.
That's brutal.
And then it says the post is deleted. And then Jake Brown says, what the fuck? I got to text Iggy and see what the hell's going on here. Why the fuck would he get an eviction notice?
I know.
You're paying your rent.
Right, if you're paying, who gives it, like...
And he's been there forever, hasn't he?
Right, like 15 years.
Holy shit.
That's fucked up.
You're always welcome to get involved on the program anytime you would like. T. McKernan at InsideSTL.com. TMCKERNAN at InsideSTL.com. That's how you can email. And holy crap, I got a bunch of emails here. All right, Jackson, anything else? Zach Bryan, Brianna Chicken Fry Grace, and it popped up in my TikTok. And since my read... right from and I'm completely oblivious to Brianna Chicken Fry outside of knowing that she was with Zach Bryan. They broke up and that she does a podcast on Barstool with Dave Portnoy.
Yes.
Am I summing everything up correct?
Yep.
Okay. I have no idea who Grace is.
Like Brianna's best friend who also did a podcast with her when she first came to Barstool.
So this is an example of being withdrawn. Yeah. It's kind of like politics, just withdrawn. Mm-hmm. So when I observed the Brianna Chicken Fry Zach Bryan thing, internally, I'm like, I don't know anything as far as the details go, but I have been part of breakups in my life. Mm-hmm. And I think you could say in damn near every breakup, you could say there was emotional abuse. Mm-hmm. And so my read, which I didn't vocalize, was this strikes me as a little Real Housewivesy, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
But whatever, I don't pay attention to it, so I don't really have. And on top of it, I'm talking about a 26-year-old's relationship with a 28-year-old. I have no idea what goes on. I don't need people commenting on my relationship, so why would I talk about it?
Right.
But I thought, if you're really upset about something, you don't then take to social media with your personal relationship while asking for privacy. But again, I recognize I'm 20 plus years older than this lady, and your life experience with social media is much different than mine. So I recognize these things, hence not commenting.
Right.
Then I'm on the TikToks on Saturday morning, and I see the Helium logo,
Right.
Helium Comedy logo with the arch, and here's Grace.
Correct.
Now, I'm not familiar with Grace.
Yeah.
But Grace, as you just said, used to do the podcast with Brianna Chicken Fry.
Yes.
Who took to social media, turned down, per her account, $12 million to sign an NDA from Zach Bryan.
Mm-hmm.
And now she has gone after Grace, her former best friend.
Yeah, she's mad because their podcast is over, and they were going to plan on telling people together, but then Bree said it, or Grace posted something.
Grace posted, I believe. Point being is now, and then I sent you a little TikTok audio where it was like some
fucking guy superimposed onto a screen.
Can you say on TikTok, if you see a guy superimposed onto his screen giving a take, what did you say when I sent you
that you're about to get fed some bullshit?
I loved it.
Yeah, because that's the truth. Anytime it's still images, like stock photos of the people, and there's some fucking asshat with hair sticking up a million feet in the air, they're always telling you some bullshit.
I love that I can live by that truth.
Anytime it happens, it's some bullshit.
So I see that, so now I'm looking into it. And I'm like, what am I fucking doing with myself? This is what happens when there's no college football.
Yeah, that's...
This is what now I'm actually looking into this shit.
Yeah.
And what I see is the quote-unquote internet has turned on Brianna Chicken Fry.
Yep.
And I'm like, this is... Let me look at this camera. Is it my own camera too,
yeah,
Peter?
That's your
I
camera.
am.
That's your camera.
This is, to all y'all motherfuckers who live for the likes, this is the risk, because if you live for the likes, guess what you're going to do? You're going to die for the likes.
Yep.
And she got all the equity of the likes when she was airing out her personal shit. And then they turned on her, and I would imagine she is a wreck right now.
Yeah.
And that's what I see with this crap.
That's why I feel so like...
And I'm like, as a parent of a 7-year-old and a 2-year-old, I'm like, I hope by the time they're dealing with, like, this stuff is, like, we look back on, like when we see guys with frosted tips from the 2000s, like, oh, remember that poor generation, like, and they went and posted shit for likes.
Right.
And they shared their whole relationship shit to get attention. Like, I feel badly because that's what you're living. You're part of that.
Yep.
Not that you're doing it,
Right,
but that's like become a norm.
Yep.
And I feel like it has had to have caused so much mental illness / anguish for people. And it's just got to be a brutal way to live.
I know, and that's why like I don't like want to engage in or have checked out of it, because it's like anytime with stuff like that's going on, I feel like I'm looking at something I shouldn't be. Like these are people's personal lives, and maybe it's all for publicity or what have you. But either way, like I don't like. It feels like gross for me to be like this aware of certain personal relationships.
And then I say the best is, and by the best I mean the worst, is that people like engage, and some of these are like men, like my age peers.
I know, like I'm team Grace. Like, oh my god, bro.
I'm going, brother, you're 45.
I know. That's why I'm like, this is not for you. It's not for anybody really, but it has to be for us. And Barstool is like the best at mobilizing that stuff, like turning it around into like that.
Yeah.
And
Dave Portnoy is one of the greatest puppet masters since we emerged from the oceans.
Right, but his like comeuppance is he has to sit on that podcast and listen to this trauma.
I don't know if he really cares.
No, I think they're actually ending that podcast.
What, the one that he does with Brianna Chicken Fry?
I think he's removing himself from it.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Now here I am going, oh, no way.
Yeah, right. That's the thing. It's like, it's crazy how quick you can get.
But I was like, so we're driving along. I don't even know why the fuck it came up. And my wife, this is the same conversation, the same trip as the Terrence Trent D'Arby thing.
Uh-huh.
And she goes, I know. I guess I'm not supposed to like Zach Bryan now for some reason. I don't remember what it is. I don't know what it is because she's not on Instagram.
Yeah.
Not on Twitter. I guess on Facebook, but not really on it. So it's like, I mean, that's a good thing for me. And it's also an attractive trait, in my opinion. For me, at least in my age range, it might be super weird if you were like 23. I don't fucking know. But either way, I'm like, yeah, I mean, I listen to Michael Jackson and R. Kelly, and I don't start whipping myself.
It's separating art from artists. It's always that's the thing.
And here's the I don't know what the fuck. I mean, the Michael Jackson is like a quote unquote documentary. I have no idea. I don't know. I like the music. I don't know what the fuck. The night I took my son at 6 to a concert, and it was a Zach Bryan concert, and like. That was something I always remember. Well, I know, but nobody's like coming at me about it. But like she's asking, and I'm like, yeah, well, guess what? When I was looking at this morning, it turns out that she was at war with some girl who was at Helium, and we've gone to shows at Helium.
Sure.
And I don't know what the fuck's going on here. All I know is, quote unquote, the internet has turned on her.
Yeah.
And I still don't even know what the fuck the internet turned on her, or turned for her, turned on. I go, Zach Bryan hasn't said a damn thing. That's what I know. And to me, that says a lot. And I take it to mean it says he don't want any part of it. That's what I take it to mean.
Because he knows he can't win.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. If you can't win, don't play.
That's exactly
that
right.
Theory.
That's exactly right.
We've highlighted some bad parts of social media. I need to give a TikTok shout out. Giving a TikTok shout out. This is for my youngs out there. Because like only the youngs would get it, but like this was a popular show for the youngs. Jimmy Neutron, I'm sure you're aware of like the hair thing. There was a character on there named Carl Weezer who had this.
Carl Weezer.
It was very neurotic, nasally voice, really funny. And there's this guy on TikTok who does famous speeches and monologues from movies as Carl Weezer, and it's one of the funny. I think he might be the greatest entertainer since Sammy Davis Jr.
Wow!
It truly. He did the Denzel Washington speech from Training Day as Carl Weezer, and it's the funniest thing I've ever heard in my entire life.
Jackson with a shout out.
This guy is unbelievable. He's so funny.
Jake Reynolds says, back when I was in school, everyone was bullied, but once you left school, you didn't have to worry about it anymore. But now these kids can't escape it. It follows them everywhere. It's incredibly sad. That is what, if you have children, well, I mean, plenty of you have children, and some I'm sure, maybe even in your age range, Jackson, but certainly if you're in teens, I'm hoping with a 2-year-old and a 7-year-old that by the time they get into that spot, which I guess will be in the next handful of years for the 7-year-old, like this shit is, and I don't know how, I'm just like operating on the premise that it's going to get to a point where somehow, but maybe I'm just holding out for something that's just not realistic because I'm in denial of what the inevitable is, which is that, like, I get the sense it's probably like passive aggressive bullying.
Yeah.
There's
a little of that, yeah, for sure. It's all, but also
But you didn't live that. That wasn't part of your life.
High school.
That you did deal with it.
I mean, I never
16.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not like looking, but I'm like, was it going on? Yes. Not necessarily. Was it really?
It's the fear of missing out thing. That's
FOMO season.
It's like, look what I'm doing, and then everyone who's not doing it is looking at it. Because if you're actively doing something, you're probably not on social media. If you're actively not doing something, you probably are looking at social media. And so, like, you see these people are out together, and it's like, oh, now I have FOMO. And that I think.
But so then it's done by one of the mean girls, or I guess mean boys, to like the whole point of the post is to say you're not here. Yeah, that's what the post is about.
Yeah. There's kind of that.
Yeah,
I was a little like if it would have been a time of, and I know this, and
that's
odd.
like that's really gross.
Oh, it's super gross.
That's because it's really it's done with 100%. Malice. It's mean. It is a mean thing.
It's very mean.
Like I got from my age range, it's parents bragging.
Yes.
But here's the thing. That's not like at the expense of somebody. It's maybe it's not a great trait, but it's done out of love for your child.
Sure.
If you're posting something to passive aggressively hurt somebody, especially somebody who's 12, 13, 14, not to say we're emotionally evolved in our 40s, but you're certainly, after a number of years, you kind of go, okay, I see where this stuff matters, in my life. It's flat out, it's mean, it's evil.
Yeah, if it had been around, this is like certainly unique to me and the people I grew up with, but if it had been around a lot during 7th grade, which is when everyone gets bar mitzvahed, and there was a bar mitzvah every single week when I was a kid, and that was like a real popularity contest.
Oh, is that right?
Kids who wouldn't get invited to some kids would, and it was kind of like, oh, I got invited to hers and you didn't. Like,
Oh, man.
and that would go on through the hallways. If people had social media, and, like, would take a picture of the invitation, like, can't wait for your bat mitzvah, whoever. That would be like really greasy.
like it.
But we didn't have it then. But that would have been like a real, like that, because that was always like the real test of popularity.
The delectable Danny Pintaro, you know him as Jonathan.
Yeah, he just had a scooter incident.
From Who's the Boss? Well, he's watching this show from his hospital bed, says, posts his son's baseball stats in Facebook guy is the worst, followed by post their anniversary announcement guy/gal. Did you send a link over that there's a higher divorce rate from people who post what they did?
Yeah. The higher this like social media output.
I did it. Well, I don't even know what it was. It's a joke. It's self. And I really think, and here's the nice thing, I don't really care. Like when I will post a picture from our wedding, I did it one time, I think, or twice, only because like the appearance gap is so wide. And then I posted something along the lines of, today's, the celebration, the 10th anniversary of the day, my wife overachieved.
Yes, there you go.
And then for people who don't know me, but they're like listeners who just friend request me, and back in the day when I would just approve anybody to be a Facebook friend, they're like, boy, this guy really...
Yeah.
Can you imagine that I'm being serious? But apparently there are people who think I'm being serious. And then my wife goes, oh shit, are we having problems because you just made it public that it's our anniversary? And I'm like, God, that's why you're my bitch. That's why you're my girl. You're my girl. Yeah, I see that before I even knew about your link, and I go, oh boy.
Yeah. I mean, it's of no surprise.
But hey, you know what? That doesn't mean that everybody who does it is doing it.
Because there's a percentage of people, it's like a higher percentage, doesn't mean everybody.
But I mean, I would, when we were living in Jupiter for 6 months in 2021, I'd be out, and I'm out there with I guess at the time, he was 3, and we'd be on the golf course, and we'd see alligators, and you just get comfortable with them, which is fucking crazy, but you see them so often, you don't think anything of them, and you realize they're just going to sit there. And I'd just be posting videos during COVID, and then I'm like, you know what? If you give me in this mindset, the mind I have now, and this isn't that long ago, this is barely not even 4 years ago, I would never post that. I would never post my son, number one, and I wouldn't post him because I know there are some people who are like, oh, you're in Jupiter, you think you're such hot shit. And in my mind, I'm just having a fun time out with my son in a golf cart. Oh, you're on a golf course in Jupiter. You know what I mean?
The ingredients aren't,
And it's just like, so it's just like, that's why I've kind of withdrawn, because I don't know but then it gets back to what you're saying. If you can't win, then why play the game?
Right. That's kind of where it's at.
But then for what we do, is it part of the game?
I don't know. I think
there's Colin Cowherd is giving a take every 10 minutes holding up his phone.
No, that's overkill.
That's what I think.
Yes. He's like walking to the studio. Where
I get it if you're like guy at KOMU.
Yes.
And by that I mean you're 22, 23 years old and you're getting your career going.
Right.
And you kind of got to do it, even though like nobody's going to watch it because nobody knows who the fuck you are.
Right.
But rarely do we have a sports topic where I'm like kind of worked up about it. Mm-hmm. And which is why I love to write for my own, not even looking to make money. I love writing. And I'm like, maybe I'll do Substack just to write because I enjoy writing. I love doing interviews on television, and I love writing with Inside STL. Other than that, I don't miss either one of those things.
Sure.
And I'm like, maybe I'll just do it. But the issue is if you feel like you got to write every day, I don't have something that I feel strongly enough about every day. But when I do feel strongly about it, I feel like I can put out something that, people may agree with or disagree with, whatever, but they'll read it and they'll think about it.
My preferred style of writing to read is someone who doesn't have to fill a quota.
Okay.
Like someone.
Yeah. So you don't make any money. I mean, I guess you can make money doing those, but you got to have like hundreds of thousands of subscribers, and it happened to me, especially if I'm like, I'll write once every few weeks or something like that. But there are times where I really, and I enjoy that. Mm-hmm. And but the idea of like I haven't posted something yet on social media for the day, I got to come up with. That's how I used to write for Inside STL. I'm like, oh shit, it's 9:00. I haven't written a column for tomorrow yet. Oh,
Yeah, then
fuck.
if you're doing it out of necessity, it's not going to conjure your best
But that
stuff.
essentially is the cable news model.
Well,
we got to fill this time, so we got to come up with some bullshit.
Yeah, that's
can I sponsor a Civil War podcast with Jackson? That's from Jake
Reynolds. You're talking about the actual Civil War or the 2024 film by Alex Garland?
Jake Reynolds, you'll have to answer.
There's one I'd be into, the other I'm not.
Let's see. I'm guilty of the post-anniversary guy, but I do mean it. I have a great marriage, and I like to say it. That's from Jake Reynolds. There. Jake Reynolds also wants you to know it's the real Civil War. Yeah, he's a big Civil War guy.
Yeah, not because I do find the Civil War extremely interesting. I just don't think I'm well versed enough in the topic to host a podcast on it. But I would listen to a podcast. I love learning about the Civil War. I find it to be a fascinating time in American history.
Uncle Cocker.
Has he got a beef?
I think posts happy birthday to their child/parent who doesn't even have social media. I think they're the most annoying. That's from Uncle Cocker. I do see that as kind of a thing, but here's the thing. I don't know if you can present it to me, and I will listen. I will hear all out. But I don't think that's mean. Again, I think that is a prideful parent.
Sure.
Posting. Now, I'd like to think I am not going to do that. Mm-hmm. I'd like to think it. Oh, yeah. I recall like 15 years ago, it was probably about 15 years ago, 13, 14 years ago, with Sarah Bruce, who was on the 1, 2, 3 show with producer Joe and Jennings Randolph Jr. And I used to go, God, these people posting pictures of their families. And I guess all I wanted to see was clit piercings on Facebook or something.
That's another title.
What did I think I was going to see? Clit piercings on Facebook. And I
big SEO.
And then like 5 years later I have a child, and then she's like, look at you, and I'm like, you're exactly right, I'm a fucking fraud.
That's right. Yeah,
you're exactly right. But I also recognize, even though I'm like D-list local celebrity, I recognize the thing. And so I'm not. I'll talk about things with you off air about my family.
Sure.
But they're just not going to be like Doug, for example. I think Greg Vaughn was a great athlete. I still don't fucking know because Doug is so
right. He's good at keeping boundaries.
Right. Doug uses social media to make jokes.
Yeah. He posts
dad
memes.
jokes.
Yeah,
yes.
he posts memes.
That's his go-to.
Great captions.
That's his go-to. It isn't. But again, somebody posting even though they're happy birthday to my son or daughter who is this, and then they don't have that account. They don't. It's on Facebook, but the person doesn't have a Facebook account.
Right.
So it's obviously 100% boastful, even though that isn't my, whatever.
Yeah.
Thing.
It's rarely malicious.
It's not malicious. Whereas posting a picture like in high school or something like that, we're all at this thing, and then the one person who usually hangs out with the group isn't there, that's malicious. Now, granted, it's like a 13-year-old doing it.
Yeah.
That's pretty gross. But then they're 13. I don't know.
Yeah, it's kids are cruel. I think that's especially at that age. Boy, howdy, are they cruel. But yeah, and then you give them a platform like that where they can really show off their cruelty. And my dad would tell you, middle school principal for years.
I bet he saw it.
You have printouts of social media posts you have to deal with kids, and it's totally outside of the school, but it comes into the school and creates a big problem. It's a headache. And how do you police that? How do you convince the parents to police that? It's extremely difficult and very toxic.
Tim and Jackson, you're 100% correct. Snapchat came out in the beginning of college, and it was the epitome of popularity contests, parties, events, etc. It was nasty. That's from Big Worm.
Yeah, and that's in your late teens, early 20s, so that you could expand all the way to that. Totally. Yeah. Boy, I'm lucky enough to open Snapchat ever.
You've never opened it up?
Oh, I have, but I just I don't know. Once you get over a certain age, if someone's like, "Hey, send me a Snapchat," it's like, "Oh, no thanks."
Yeah, if I were on Snapchat, wouldn't you be like, "Oh, fuck"?
Yes.
Tim's got to be looking for side pieces. That's what you would think, right?
It's
I assume.
It's not sorry, I was Snapchatting Michael Wellington my golf swing. That's not something you would do. So no, I would think that would be a little weird.
we were having dinner on Saturday, and I was getting up. I got to piss. This is the hot stuff you say when you've been married for probably
hit the head. I like saying hit the head.
And then we were getting up. I was getting up to go, and she's still sitting there watching the NBA.
Good for her.
And
SGA.
and then I reach to grab my phone. She goes, "Oh, you're not going to leave your phone." And I'm like, "You can look at everything you want,
Yeah.
sister. I don't give a fuck." The truth is, I'm going to scroll TikTok while I'm holding my cock.
Yeah.
That's exactly what's going to go on.
That's it.
Just so you know, if you want an image while I'm doing it, I'll be happy to send it to the bar.
Bathroom is prime time for some mindless scrolling. I try to limit my mindless scrolling, but when I'm using the restroom is when I can just let it rip.
Let me tell you something. And as I went out on the record, I am a creep. However, at this particular moment in my life, I know, it's scroll through the phone. Might see some Ella Reese still shots that I screenshotted from her Instagram. You might see it. You might not. I don't know. I'm not going to say.
Yeah.
But as far as like the anxiety you might have while you're in side piece mode, and with phones, again, I don't know how people do it. I guess there are different apps to communicate on, DMs. Fuck, I have no idea. That's a nice place to be.
Oh, yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean back in your 20s, you're fucking all the time. You might be fucking a bunch of different people. God bless, to each their own, whatever. But to go have at it with the phone, sister. Don't give a shit. You're not going to see anything on there.
Yeah.
You're not going to be surprised to see that Ella Reese is one of my favorite follows on Instagram. You're not going to be surprised. I talk about it all the time. I'm a big supporter. She needs to work more.
Yeah.
She needs to do more work.
I was going to say, you said screenshots from Instagram. I was like, it's just going to be a bunch of hiking
videos.
Hiking pics and her Apple Watch.
Apple Watch.
Oh, posting your Apple Watch. That's a look at me move.
But is it as mean as posting a picture from a bar mitzvah where so-and-so is not invited?
Some of the fats might say it's mean, but generally no.
Really?
Well, yeah, it's kind of like the shaming you for not working out kind of
You
thing.
think so? Mm-hmm. Why do you think people do it? Why do people do that?
The Apple Watch thing?
Yeah.
Show off that they're working out.
Do you think it's a form of self-accountability?
I think you could market it as such. But
Like why? But I mean, she's obviously in good shape. I say like everybody knows who she is.
she is in good shape.
She is in good shape. Tim's following a heavier adult star.
No. But yeah, I think it's a show off thing.
Is it?
Because self
So
accountability.
would me and Ella Reese not work out?
But like, what? So these guys who follow Ella Reese, when she doesn't post an Apple Watch, are gonna be like, "Are you not working out anymore, Ella?" They're gonna be like, "No."
Probably. Actually, I think
Send me your
somebody's-
used socks, and I'll send you $2,000. That's what's going on in their DMs, guarantee.
You're always I haven't read the erotic story.
Yeah,
I got to deliver on that.
I know. But you're giving me
Yeah, I got to do that. All right, I got to go back down to the QFTA
podcast blue
file.
balls.
Let's see what I got here. All right, now this says, okay, I gotta get to. Let's see. All right, she texted at 5:38 to confirm she was 10 minutes out. Arrived at my door at 5:48. You know what? I don't think I can read that. I'm not sure I can read it. I need to check with the person because it says this is off the record. Now I take off the record to mean I can't give the name.
Right.
But before I start reading it,
Right. You should probably.
I got to 100%.
Get 100%.
But I did when it was sent to me. I go, yes, we have an erotic story for QFTA, and I sent that on Saturday morning at 8:30. What the fuck was I doing?
8:30.
Scrolling TikTok for Grace and Brianna chicken fry.
Oh, I was sleeping in like a champion.
God Almighty. Does it bother you when I send you the TikToks over the weekend? Honestly, look, because I'm going to know the answer is yes or no. Okay, that was a real no.
I don't care. I mean, most of it, like
I emailed Chairman Kurt something happened over the weekend, and I said, hey, I'm emailing you only because it was a sound story thing. Since that is his actual job, I would never bother him with this stuff over the weekend since it's not his job. Mm-hmm. And I said, I hate to email you the weekend, but this came in, and I want to make sure this is whatever. I really apologize. I don't like to be email or bother work people with work-related shit over the weekend, but I see audio on TikTok, and we use it, what do we just say, 33% of the time?
Yeah, give or take.
And I just send it to you, and...
I just throw the like, yeah.
Okay.
A lot of times, like, I'll have the audio already, but it's just like, to me, it's like nothing. It's like, oh, Tim just sent me, all right, good. It makes my job
hey,
easier.
stop everything you're doing.
Yeah, it's not like you're like, hey, can you send me a detailed report of
your time is your time.
Right. I don't care. I don't give a shit.
All right, fair enough. All right, let me see what else. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm going to double check with the erotic story author to make sure it's
to me, it's just getting better at teasing.
Well, let's just say, let's get some cash at the ATM.
Oh. Let's get some cash at the ATM. But I'll tell you, those drive-up ATMs are a bitch.
Yeah, I rarely carry cash.
I never drive close
your voice,
enough.
One of your named friends gave me shit for not carrying cash. I never use it. Like this, I might have gotten this out of an ATM like 20 years ago.
That screams MPK.
What's MPK?
One of my buddies.
Oh, for not carrying cash. I'm like, I don't use it.
Oh yeah, I never. I had.
It's at the Pizza Go-Go. That's the only time I need to make sure I have cash.
There's a diner in Olivet, the Olivet Diner actually, that only takes cash. And when I have accrued enough cash, I go to the diner. That's what I do. So like when I get to enough point, so this on Sunday yesterday, I had accrued enough cash. So me and my girlfriend went to the diner. It was great.
I like having it. Like if I get it from like betting and golf, but now I don't know if anybody I play with. It's all Venmo, and then we never ever spend it.
Right.
Like that's one of the things we're going. Right. Like, you ever use your Venmo? And I go, not really. I got a debit card for a while, but then I didn't really, because I don't want to carry it all the time, and I hardly ever use it.
It's like Monopoly money almost.
Yeah, I mean, if I can get to a point where I have like $1,000 in Venmo, then I could actually like do something.
Right.
That high school bookie I got.
Oh, mine too.
Is he on you?
No, I'm up, and then on the day he usually asks to cash out or roll over, I get no text, and then I text a couple days later, hey, can I cash out? And he goes, oh, only on Tuesdays. Well, motherfucker, you didn't text me on Tuesday, but when I owe money, bet your ass I'm getting a text on Tuesday.
Yeah, that's the thing. I understand the program. And I just like to roll it over when I have winnings, but he doesn't want me to roll it over because he knows what will happen. I'll be betting big.
Right.
And he could get hit.
Really,
he's a high school bookie. Most casinos want you to keep playing because they know you're going to lose.
Right.
My high school bookie's worried I'm going to like bet $30 instead of $5. I'm going to break him.
He has too much exposure. What
is this sports? Have you heard when the sports betting's starting up around here?
I've heard so many different timelines on that I can't. With
I haven't
confidence.
heard anything.
I've heard as late as like next December.
Oh.
And I've heard as early as January.
Well, it has to be within 12 months of the election, so that can't be unless they do a recount.
Yeah. But I've heard as early as next month, but I also don't buy that. I'm just hoping by next football season we have legal gambling. That's my hope.
God, it would be
ideally before March Madness.
All right, Jackson, how long have we been going? I'm going to say 69 minutes.
Yeah, right about hour 10.
Nice. All right, time for us to go. For Jackson Bennett Burkett, I'm Chairman Kurt.
I'm Chairman Tim.
Chairman Tim. No, there's only a couple Chairman Kurt, Chairman Steve. I'm Tim McKernan. This has been the Tim McKernan Show podcast. QFTA. Send your questions, comments, anything in. Tim McKernan at InsideSTL.com.